was not willing to give a copy of the petition. The non-lawyer, John Dramani Mahama, respected the request of her ladyship, the Chief Justice, and offered her. She even requested for 7 days. President Mahama.
Don't compare President Mahama to
please,
gentlemen.
Gentlemen, hold on. I understand you are unconstitutionally interfering in my submission.
But I'm saying, if you compare,
So I am saying that. Wait. So I am saying that this attack from the minority, and I've heard my learned senior Darko and the minority leader, I see that Afenyomakin cleverly wants to turn the conversation into an NDC MPP thing to muddy the waters cleverly. And if you heard my national chairman, he said this matter, we are not talking about it, the merit or otherwise. President John Dramani Mahama has so far conducted himself so well, and it's also because he had the benefit of sound legal advice with the likes of the Attorney General, Marietta and co around him. They will not allow the president, even though a non-lawyer, to do anything outside the constitutional stipulation. And so, you see, I think that regardless of the merits of the petition, and I don't want to go into it, regardless of that, I have seen media houses, some other media houses and colleagues say, oh, the NDC wants to remove Madam, what's her name? Her Chief Justice Tokonu, because either than that, the NDC cannot do oral or something.
And that you don't trust the current architecture of the judiciary to prosecute the oral cases.
Let me tell you. I'll tell you. Hold on. Shouldn't it be? I beg you. I'll give you a classic example. A case I conducted. So there is a judge.
I'm enjoying listening to you.
There is a judge. My Lord, I'll just use this example. And my Lord Justice Akabuafo, you know him?
Yes.
Okay. Good. My Lord Justice Akabuafo was appointed by President Mahama High Court. Then Nanado took him to the Court of Appeal. Right?
Yeah.
Good. So he strained both regimes, correct. I did Ato forcing at the appeal before him as one of the Court of Appeal judges. When he saw merit in it, even though he was appointed by President Nanado to the Court of Appeal, he saw merit in our appeal and acquitted and discharged. So for me, the idea that, oh no, because you have been appointed, in fact, her ladyship Justice Tokonu, do you know who took her to the Court of Appeal? Do you know who took her to the High Court? She strained all the political parties. So this has nothing to do with whether she was appointed by MPP or NDC. What we all need to do is soberly reflect, and I'm sure if a prima facie determination is made, we'll all have the benefit of knowing. Look, in the case of Charlotte Osei, and remember that when Charlotte Osei matter happened, Frank Ajechum had already been decided. As at the time, Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo forwarded the Charlotte Osei petition to her ladyship Chief Justice, I think Sofa Akufo, right? And she made a prima facie determination. What was it on? Procurement breaches. I remember at that time, I cautioned. I said, no. Superior Court judges, because of the countervailing force in our democratic experiment, right? The ground for their removal should be something very serious. At that time, my friends in the MPP said, no, it matters not. Procurement breaches is enough, and that constitutes stated misbehavior. I said, look, the Procurement Act itself envisaged the possibility of violation. And
Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
Lawyer Edudzi has also come out asking or questioning the minority in Parliament on how they secured a claim they said is the content of the petition for the removal of the Chief Justice, which he wants to know whether it's the Chief Justice who is leaking all these documents to them, because it's something Julius Deborah has not even set an eye on. Even when giving it to him was sealed. People around the president don't even know the content. How do they manage to know what the document entails? He said a lot of things, which I want you to join me listening to what he said about the documents, and which can also stand a chance to remove the Chief Justice for not being honest with the president. This station still remains PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and latest updates in politics. If you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like, and also share to other members to watch as well. Thank you for your time as well. Stay tuned to the end, and your comments are most important to us. Do leave a comment at the comment section. Thank you.
Gold mining and whether it's really making any significant impact. At this point, I want to acknowledge the presence of the acting CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, because you referenced that from the legal perspective is going to also touch on it as well. He's a private legal practitioner in addition to all the other things that he does. Edudzi Tameklo, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
A very competent one.
Good morning, and good morning to the learned professor who is here, and good morning to my senior senior. I can see my very senior brother from Chiame, my senior Edem.
Yes.
Yes, and then the religious. Yes, and then the religious viewers.
Indeed.
The people who view key points. It has gotten to the point of a religion.
Indeed.
On Saturdays. But quickly, let me do this. My senior brother, the Honorable Nilante Vanderpool, he is watching. Now, the wife is one of your ardent viewers.
Oh,
Today
wow.
happens to be her birthday, Diana Nakole Vanderpool. So wherever she is, happy birthday to her. But that said, I think that the initial comment and the passion by Senor had put matters in proper perspective. I think this is one time that you can say that, usually the judgment is having read the erudite submission of my learned brother, I have nothing useful to add except to concur. So this one, in concurring, I just need to say that I understand that there's even another village closer to this one called Jerusalem, which is bigger. Yes, called Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem.
Yes. Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is bigger than this particular one. And you see, we come and sit on the national television and raise these concerns. But trust me, the Forestry Commission people, they know this settlement. And they have always known that this settlement existed.
They've always known?
Yes, almost 2 years now.
So why did
almost 2 years now, this place, Abrewa Ninkrine.
And Jerusalem had always existed.
Jerusalem.
And you see, these communities, usually they start like village. You know, like you go to farm and you have a farm village.
Yeah.
Then tomorrow, another set of people will come and join you. Another set will come and join you. Another set. And then it started expanding. In fact, it is, quote unquote, a nation on its own, with all the things that is required to make people live well. But you see, you know what has happened? It has to take the Honorable Defense Minister, Dr. Omane Boama, the new IGP, the National Security Coordinator, again, the new leadership of the Forestry Commission, to say, no, enough is enough. But for that, this community will still be there. All the people involved in our natural resource conversation, particularly within the Western region, the RECSEC, until 2024, knew about these two settlements.
What?
Yes.
There's
Senor.
Jerusalem and Mabrewa.
Jerusalem and this one. They knew about this settlement. In fact, this settlement was so close to the home of one of the deputy ministers then. So, look, I am saying that, look, I have absolute confidence that President Mahama will fight this thing. Because, you see, these are things, legacies that he's taking over, and he wants to demolish that infrastructure. My brother, Senor, look, the past 8 years, galamsey, it was terrible. You see, we have moved from the point of complaint to action. The actionable intelligence that led to the destruction of this community. And the number of people, in fact, even the fear I have now is that without the benefit of alternative livelihood for these people, there's also another potential risk that we should be anticipating.
Which is what?
Now they have moved from here. They have to go and look somewhere else to resettle. So they are going to be, it's like a cell, cancerous. It moves through the other cells. And that is what this whole thing, and you know, it's supposed to be a whole security arrangement where, with the greatest respect, you even need to profile the people and appreciate who they are, where they are coming from, the purpose of resettling them, among other things. So it's a whole conversation that we need to have. And as for the economics of it, it's about a numbers game. Look, the Honorable Dr. Omanebuama shared something on his Facebook page, very instructive, that for the first time, government is now following up on the chassis numbers on the excavators. And the whole idea of following up on the chassis numbers is to identify the owners of those excavators. So we are getting closer to the kingpins.
So because that was a manifesto promise.
No,
you're not going to deal with the small boys in the forest.
No.
You're going to identify the financiers, the kingpins behind this illegality. So what have you done in that regard?
So like again, the Honorable Defense Minister had just put out there in the public. That's the level of accountability and transparency we want to approach this conversation. And where in this situation, what government is essentially doing is to say that, listen, we are following up on the lead. We want to know who brought in this excavator. Like we say, excavator no get wing.
Yes, you know they fly.
You know they fly. Somebody had to bring it into this country. The chassis number will give provide that essential intelligence as to who the owners. As you are aware, the Ghana police, and again, I want to salute the IGP, Yohonu, for an excellent job so far, together with the National Security Coordinator, the Interior Minister, the Defense Minister. I know people want more, but I can tell you that these people are not sleeping on the job.
Okay.
Look, Akonta mining, there's a particular mining, you know, just about 2 days ago, about almost 15 Chinese nationals, about 20 Ghanaians, excavators and other mining equipment were equally raided. There was a raid. And from all indication, it is linked to Akonta mining.
How did you know this?
No, because the report, the news report, clearly gave that indication that they are on that site on behalf of Akonta mining.
They quoted who in that news report saying?
In fact, if I need to just get you the news report.
So it's noted that we already have a petition at the IGP's office. We submitted a petition during Dan Paris tenure against Akonta mining, who was clearly found to be acting illegally
I think
in the mines by Mincom. So we have a petition there which has not been acted by the Ghana police.
I am just saying that, I don't care whether you are NDC your MPP in this matter. Whoever you are. Because you see, myself and you here, right, we'll go out to the various restaurants, buy food items. We'll go and eat. Where the food items are coming from, we don't know. Whether they are coming from polluted mining communities, we don't know. And we don't know that in this whole mining conversation is the use of cyanide, mercury, and all of those things. And these are heavy metals.
Ghana Water can fix it.
Now, we also do know that Ghana Water has been complaining over the period, one, about the costs of treating water for all of us.
Yes.
What is our ability as a people to break down these heavy metals like mercury and the rest? How are we able to do? So eventually the treated water that we are using at home may just end up being galamsey polluted but treated water for our household. The net effect is health issues. So anybody who says, oh, we are getting gold, and that gold is enough to compensate for the health, issues associated. With the greatest respect, you are not being fair to this republic. And so I think even the economics doesn't help us because they are not tax paying. Look, because of the illegal nature of the conversation, we are not getting the appropriate taxes. So again, revenue loss.
Big one.
Revenue loss. And so the economics is bad, the health is bad, the concern about the environment, Bobo. I remember in our natural resource class, Dr. Ine taught us natural resource law. And one of the things that we used to look at, an environmental law by Professor Kwame Jan. One of the things that we used to talk about is intergenerational issues. The level at which we are destroying the environment, the generational issues, you can never actually mitigate it.
Sure.
And the danger here, and I'll conclude on this, is that we are destroying what is even meant for the future.
Yeah.
Oh!
Sustainability. You see, and I'm going to have you...
Look, let me say this. Mining didn't start today. In fact, Don Diego de Azambuja came here because of what? Mining. And so our people have always done mining small scale. It is the greed, the unmitigated greed. Where now we are using excavators to do massive surface mining. And that is what is creating the problem. It is not, the word galamsey was not coined today. Gather and sell has always been with our people from many, many, many years ago. What has created the problem now is that in the past, our people were just doing, they call it artisanal mining in those days. Small. Then people now brought in the Chinese Shanghai. People now brought in the excavators. And so now they targeted our water bodies directly. That is where the problem is. So on this note, I want to encourage, beyond the political heads, we also need traditional authority.
Yes, because the fundamental question
and look, Domahini, Nana Domahini, Justice Daniel Mensah, made the point that you can't come to Doma to do mining. And that one is about traditional authority. Look, these people who settled in this community, they are landowners. In Ghana, if you go onto somebody's land without the tacit permission of that person, there will be war. In fact, there are wars being fought in this country because of land. How come that you can have thousands of people on the land without the tacit endorsement of the traditional authority? So that is key. That is key. Look, I'm aware. Nana Santihin, for instance, had made a point that chiefs can now be distilled. In the past, the basis for customary distillment of chiefs did not include galamsey. Nana Santihin had now included it. So if you're a chief and there is evidence that you are engaged in galamsey, it is now grounds for your distillment as a chief. Painfully. Okay. Senor, do you know that today the Bui Dam is getting compromised?
Hey, Jesus!
You know why? Because from the Savannah region, they are now doing massive mining. And because of the use of the Shanghai,
Yeah.
It is silting. It is silting the buoy downstream.
Yeah.
This is a dam that we use $600 million to construct. And so the problem is multifaceted.
It's at the heart of our energy supply.
And that is how we need to approach the conversation going forward.
I thank you, but listen.
And you heard me fire small.
No, but
this week, what I have seen has given me hope. But this hope is hope for now. It must be sustained action.
Yes. Okay.
The dialogue and general engagement that Ken spoke about is important. In all these efforts, you have to carry the people along. That's where in the communication you miss it a bit. Carry everyone along. You set a strong tone. Let's hope and work together. Whether you're NDC or MPP, when the water is infectious, you also suffer. If you don't suffer, your children or your neighbors or somebody in your village will suffer. So let's work together. If you find somebody in your hood, in your party, you expose them. That is what will give Ghanaians confidence that you are no more a galamsey party. For which reason, even in 2028, if you want to come, there's a reason to look your way. But if you can't even expose your own people, like Akunta mining, they're on your own.
All right, so I'll take the final comment on this because Nana Bosompem will have to leave us to go and join his team on the ground already. Nana, there's a message I want you to quickly respond to. This is coming from a medical doctor. He says, was this raid... Nana, please put your video on for me. He said, was this raid done with consultation and advice from the Ghana Health Service? Nana Bosompem, can you hear me? He says there's a major...
Can you repeat yourself, please?
Yes. He's asking if the raid in the Abrewa Ninkran was done with consultation and advice from the Ghana Health Service, because in his view, there's a major health risk posed by this population. There should have been some serious screening to detect various health risks and infections due to their activities there. The 9 brothels full of prostitutes that you talk about, STI, HIV, tuberculosis, etc., such people should be screened before they find themselves in our general population, because, as you indicated, you didn't arrest them, they've moved and dispersed. Is it something you did?
No, I mean, we didn't do that. Upon hindsight, we wish we had a luxury of time to be able to do so. In fact, when we got there, we wish we had even come with emergence of the immigration agency because of the nationals that we encountered. But like I said, to be successful, there was that element of surprise. Okay. And within the time that this operation was conceived, around 9 p.m., we were supposed to move at 12 midnight and get to the community by 2:30 a.m. So there are a lot of things that we couldn't put in place. But going forward, I think we need to have a good strategy that should involve the police, the military, the immigration service, probably what you just mentioned, the Ghana Health Service, agents of national security. But then sometimes we are challenged. The bigger the size of the operation, the more likely information can leak if people get to know exactly where we're going. So I think we will factor all these things into consideration and see how we can rope in other allied institutions to support our fight.
Nana,
today with something you highlighted.
Perfect. Nana, I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for...
I'm grateful to you.
Indeed. Thank you for taking time out to join us for the past 2 hours this morning. And I know you've got to go back to your work. Congratulations to you and the team. You know, and also admitting where you could get it better. Let's improve as the days go by to fight this illegality head on, because we are all at risk. Nana, thank you and good work.
Thank you.
Nana Bosompem is the Western Region Manager of the Forestry Commission. He's leading the task force, the Military Forest Guards Task Force, clamping down on this illegality. You understand the next place they are going already, they've moved into the Jerusalem area, Tameklo, where you mentioned. You understand there's an operation taking place as we speak in the Jerusalem. And then also, very interesting name, Jerusalem full of illegality. Wasan crime as well. We understand there's something that's taking place there. A number of you have sent us messages. Also, talk with Dr. Nyaho Tameklo. Thank you very much for the message. Also commending Nana Bosompem as well for the work done. Forest guards have some form of arms, but their numbers are woefully inadequate. But what stops the Forestry Commission from asking the security agencies to support in dealing with unauthorized trespass and illegal activities in any forest? Do you know how heavy the immediately apprehend trespassers who enter any forest to cut small chapiadia. You say, great contributions from Edudzi Tameklo. He says, the other one says, I agree with Senor on the compliments on Edudzi Tameklo's point this morning. He has said it right, and we are also taking notes. As you have always said, Alfred, we live to remind our leaders of what they have said to us and what they said they would do. That is our ultimate responsibility of being citizens and not spectators, you say. Thank you very much for taking on that responsibility as well. Papa Bishu says, even though the military is needed against external aggression, question is, when was the last time Ghana had that? I strongly believe the taxpayers' money used in paying the military against external aggression, which there is none for now. This time, the military should be made to face the internal, you say, I'm sure you want to write terrorists against galamsey intruders, you say. Thank you very much for the message. This one here says, good morning. Great discussion this morning. Can they ask the panelists on the galamsey discussion, are they conscious of the pushback from the beneficiaries, financiers of this menace, overtly and covertly? In discussing, not too much information should be divulged because they are not dummies. They are intelligent. So let's push for the state of emergency, you say. Thank you, Reverend Emmanuel. Thank you for that message as well. This one here says, from Shams, good morning, Alfred. The success of galamsey fight largely depends on the willingness of the president to honestly deal with this menace. And thank you very much. He says, President, salvage our lands, essentially. Colonel Professor Sabwaje, good morning, says, good morning, Alfred. The program highlights the grave security, says this program this morning highlights the grave security risk, among others, that galamsey poses to the nation. This action must be sustained, and this conversation must continue. Says grateful for this morning. Colonel Professor Sabwaje, thank you very much for your message this morning, quite a number of them. I appreciate all of you, and as well, say good morning once again to our listeners on the Voice of London radio. This is in the heart of the city of London, serving diaspora to the maximum. So welcome once again to our listeners on the Voice of Radio London. This leads us to our next conversation this morning. The former Attorney General was in court this week for and on behalf of his client, Vincent Asifua, regarding the petitions against the Chief Justice. Now, the case has been adjourned, this injunction case has been adjourned again for the second time this time around because one of 5 justices of the Apex Court was absent. Both the Attorney General and that's the current Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, and the former Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, spoke to the media after the adjournment. We want to hear them to set the tone, and then we'll go for a quick break. But let's hear them. What we are
not to hear the case, it's not mine to make, all right? And the reason why we were absent at the last adjourned date was because we organized a training far ahead of the date that was given to us by the court. And the training was for all 6 attorneys, all right, by the ECOWAS Court of Justice. So they were being trained on the procedures and rules of the ECOWAS Court of Justice. And because of that, I was deeply involved in the training. My deputy was deeply involved in the training. The ECOWAS delegation that was doing the training was here in Accra. And we just asked for a date. Lawyers ask for this all the time when they are constrained and cannot be available in court. So for you to interpret that to mean that we are not willing, to go along with this process is
not release their budgetary allocations and thereby would be able to control them. So we'll still be then left with the financial independence. So perhaps the chairman of the Constitutional Review Commission, Professor Prempeh, should be looking at that angle too. How we'll strengthen it. Yes, currently on paper, they'll tell you that, when the judiciary send their budget, you can't cut it and the rest. But practically, there are ways of going around it. So perhaps the committee should be looking at how they can get the financial independence too.
Actually, now, but in this way, I bring in Edudzi Tameklo because I just want to run up on this aspect of the conversation because it ties directly into the current state of affairs. Is there a real challenge that this call for the review of these powers will solve? Council.
I think that we are faced with an issue that we should not confuse matters. What we are discussing this morning relates to a press conference by the minority leader. He calls himself the mighty minority leader. What that means, I don't know. But what is not in doubt is that the minority leader says that there is an unacceptable attempt by the NDC to infiltrate the judiciary, and now says that civil society groups must condemn that act. And not only that, he invites all other persons, religious leaders and what have you, to tell President Mahama to stop what the Constitution says he should do. Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution is in clear terms. Thankfully, our Supreme Court had the opportunity to interpret Article 146 on the removal processes, particularly as it relates to a Chief Justice. Question: has President John Dramani Mahama done anything today not stipulated by the 1992 Constitution? Certainly the answer is no. Now, President Mahama, having assumed the office of President of the Republic of Ghana on the 7th of January 2025, has received 3 petitions. The petitions are to the effect that, based on the constitutional arrangement, the only basis that you can remove the Chief Justice or a Justice of the Superior Court is 1, through stated misbehavior, incompetence, or infirmity. As I speak to you now, I have not had the benefit of seeing the content of the petition. I have not seen it. Because if you recall, the Supreme Court in Franka J. Chum had provided a certain parameter that the entire process should be kept in camera. Strict confidentiality. So President Mahama, guided by this decision of the Supreme Court, has kept the petition under wrap. In fact, if you recall, when Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, wrote to him, however, copied to the Ghana Bar Association, Association of Judges and Magistrates, obviously the President expressed his disappointment with that conduct. Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, demanded of the President, or requested, that Mr. President, I need 7 days to respond to these petitions before a prima facie case can be made against me. The President advised properly, said, yes, even your request for 7 days, I'll give you 10 days. That was offered her generously. Let the record reflect that Afenyo Makin, one of the principal advisors of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on legal matters, did not advise Akufo-Addo to give Charlotte Osei the benefit of these 7 days or 10 days. That is our record. So it is a mark of, let me say, it is hypocritical for my leader senior Afenyo Makin to do a press conference and suggest that President Mahama is doing something untoward. It's regrettable.
Well, no, he's not the one who holds that. The argument by the immediate past Attorney General is that to the extent that this injunction application is being heard, it behoves on the President to halt any process ongoing under Article 146 until the determination of that case?
You see, as for Godfred, I won't even talk about him for now. Let me deal with a major issue. You see,
Why is that? That underlines the position that Macron has taken.
President Mohammed's fidelity to the 1992 Constitution is something that should be celebrated. When he became president, he appointed a Shrad boss called Madame Vivian Loretta Lamptey. Now get something. Honorable Frank Anodompre, MPP MP, and another gentleman by name Richard Nyama brought a petition to President Mahama that the Shrad boss so appointed by him has misconducted herself, financial issues, and therefore were seeking the removal of the Shrad boss. President John Dramani Mahama, consistent with his character to uphold the rule of law, accepted the petition, forwarded it to the CJ then. The CJ then made a prima facie determination, and the Shrad boss, Madame Loretta Lamptey, then
an appointee of President Mahama,
was removed by President Mahama. Consistency. Today, as we speak, President John Dramani Mahama is in receipt of 3 petitions. I don't know the individuals. What has he done, having received these 3 petitions, to warrant that unprovoked, meritless provocation from Alfenyo Markin? Has President Mahama done anything inconsistent with the 1992 Constitution? No. He received a petition. The Chief Justice said, President, I have become aware through a press release by your spokesperson, the Honorable Felix Kwachi, that these petitions are in your custody for my removal. Mr. President, before you make any comment further on this petition, Mr. President, I want to respond. The President said, well, I mean, that's fair. In fact, you should have actually spoken to me. Meanwhile, the letter requesting for it, you've copied other people. But that's beside the point. Your request is legitimate. I will give you 10 days to adequately prepare. Now, the President, having done this, was it consistent with the Constitution? Due process. He said, look, let's everything, let everybody, you can't condemn a person without hearing, even though I differ. The President says, I will do that. Now, the Council of State or whoever is supposed to go into the merit or otherwise of it. If the Council of State so advise the President and advise that he is not bound by though, what you do, if he sees that there is a determination of prima facie, you do a 7-member, a 5-member committee comprising 3 justices and 2 quote-unquote civilians to determine whether it merits your removal. In the meantime, the President has the power to suspend you. Now, from the time of the receipt of the petition to date, has President John Dramani Mahama done anything outside the strictures of the Constitution? No. Now, listen carefully.
I just want clarity. I'm told that there had been a ruling that says that if there is a petition against the Chief Justice, the President is not bound to give a copy of that petition.
No, so you see,
I'm just asking.
No, so you see, there were 2 schools of thought. That flowing from the Frank Ajechum decision. There is a lacuna. And that at this point, really, because personally, I think that when a petition comes and you respond copiously, it means that on the face of it, there's something that needs to be looked into. That's my view. And so I strongly believe that even at this point, the question of giving a copy to the person or respondent here is a bit, the Constitution itself is a bit silent on it. But President Mahama said, regardless, I will give you the opportunity, and gave her 10 days to respond. Now look at this. Alfenyo Markin, who addressed the press, one of the principal legal advisors to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo until he left office, was here when Madame Charlotte Osei's petition came. Faceless individual. With all the issues, Madame Charlotte Osei, through her lawyers, wrote to Mr. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for a copy of the petition to respond. Eugene Ahin, the presidential gongon beater, then said, listen carefully, then said, it is not in the place of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to give Charlotte Osei a copy of the petition. Mahama didn't say so. Mahama said, have it. Madam Sophia Akufo, then Chief Justice, because it relates to, did the prima facie determination. Eventually, the president appointed a 5-member committee. My Lord Justice Bernin, the late Justice Mafusa, Agnes Doji, Abrampa, and another woman. They went into the merit and said, look, there is grounds, and recommended the removal of Madame Charlotte Osei. It was a 3-2 majority decision. You understand? So that is our record. Has President Mahama today done anything outside what Akufo-Addo has done? In fact, he had even gone a step higher. The lawyer Akufo-Addo was not willing to give a copy of the petition. The non-lawyer John Dramani Mahama respected the request of Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, and offered her. She even requested for 7 days. President Mahama.
Don't compare President Mahama to
Akufo-Addo. Please, gentlemen.
Mahama is
I understand you are unconstitutionally interfering in my submission.
But I'm saying,
if you compare,
So I am saying that. Wait. So I am saying that this attack from the minority, and I've heard my learned senior Daku and the minority leader, I see that Afenyomakin cleverly wants to turn the conversation into an NDC MPP thing to muddy the waters. Cleverly. And if you heard my national chairman, he said, this matter, we are not talking about it, the merit or otherwise.
You speak.
President John Dramani Mahama has so far conducted himself so well. And it's also because he had the benefit of sound legal advice with the likes of the Attorney General, Marietta, and co. around him. They would not allow the president, even though a non-lawyer, to do anything outside the constitutional stipulation. And so, you see, I think that regardless of the merits of the petition, and I don't want to go into it, regardless of that, I have seen media houses, some other media houses and colleagues say, oh, the NDC wants to remove Madame, what's her name, her Chief Justice Tokonu, because either than that, the NDC cannot do oral or something.
And that you don't trust the current architecture of the judiciary to prosecute the oral
cases. Let me tell you. I'll tell you. Hold on. Shouldn't I beg you. I'll give you a classic example. A case I conducted. So there is a judge.
I'm enjoying listening to you.
There is a judge. My Lord, I'll just use this example. And my Lord Justice Akabuafo, you know him?
Yes.
Okay. Good. My Lord Justice Akabuafo was appointed by President Mahama High Court. Then Nana Addo took him to the Court of Appeal. Right?
Yeah.
Good. So he strained both regimes, correct. I did Ato forcing at the appeal before him as one of the Court of Appeal judges. When he saw merit in it, even though he was appointed by President Nana Addo to the Court of Appeal, he saw merit in our appeal and acquitted and discharged. So for me, the idea that, oh no, because you have been appointed, in fact, Her Ladyship Justice Tokonu, do you know who took her to the Court of Appeal? Do you know who took her to the High Court? She strained all the political parties. So this has nothing to do with whether she was appointed by MPP or NDC. What we all need to do is soberly reflect, and I'm sure if a prima facie determination is made we all have the benefit of knowing. Look, in the case of Charlotte Osei, and remember that when Charlotte Osei matter happened, Frank Ajechum had already been decided. As at the time, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo forwarded the Charlotte Osei petition to her ladyship Chief Justice, I think Sofa Akufo, right? And she made a prima facie determination. What was it on? Procurement breaches. I remember at that time, I cautioned. I said, no. Superior Court judges, because of the countervailing force in our democratic experiment, right? The ground for their removal should be something very serious. At that time, my friends in the MPP, my friends in the MPP said, no, it matters not. Procurement breaches is enough, and that constitutes stated misbehavior. I said, look, the Procurement Act itself envisaged the possibility of violation and provided in Section 90 the opportunity to rectify. And so, in the wisdom of the maker of the law, they envisaged a situation where there could be mistake. So they said, set up a committee, investigate the matters. If the committee now makes... So I was looking at a situation where before you can remove a judge, it should be on grounds that he has stolen public funds. There's some, you know, some... Our friends in the MPP said no. And I remember, and I said this with so much sadness. Kweku Baako issued a writ at the Supreme Court. His lawyer was Samson Ladi Ayenene. That day, I happened to be at the Supreme Court with my senior Dr. Ayene on a different matter. That same day, the Charlotte Osei suit came, Kweku Baako's suit came up. His Lordship Justice Nene Amegache asked Samson Ladi, Samson, are you saying that a breach of the Procurement Act is not a violation of a law, is not stated misbehavior? And that was it. That day, I left the court sad. I said, look, if we put it in that context, all of us become vulnerable. The level of vulnerability is high. But I think at that time, it was convenient for some people to do that. Possibly because it was Charlotte Osei. And I've always maintained that tomorrow is pregnant. The accounts have a say, yes, oh, you are Fonsa. Now, why are they? Look, why is Afenyo Makin panicking? Does he have the benefit of the petition and its context?
Well, there's been some references made to some allegations that they, the minority, purport to be in the petition, which they describe in words as frivolous. In fact, the current Swami Member of Parliament, John Darko, addressed the press this week, referencing some allegations purporting to be in the petitions against the Chief Justice, and the description given to those allegations that they are frivolous. I want us to take a listen to
so that I can come. John Darko, let's listen to John Darko. Then I can.
And then I will set the matters in context. Take a look.
We are told that a gentleman who committed contempt in faciet curia and was thus accordingly punished by the courts was the CJ because he has been punished by the court, not the CJ. One of the last allegations we've heard, which is ridiculous, is the fact that the CJ has misappropriated some 75,000 Ghana cedis. An accusation which from the Judicial Service has been dealt with by the Auditor General's outfit. Justice Tokuni's distraction should not be the grounds for your rising to the office of Chief Justice. To you, that judge, remember that you can rise together. But if you ride on the distraction of somebody to rise, remember that posterity will not be kind to you. To our development partners and foreign missions in the country.
So that's John Darko. Hold on, because this, by the process and details of Article 146, the details of the petition is supposed to be in camera, secret. We shouldn't know. So but then again, the reference is made of
the
allegations.
My learned senior says we are told Now, when the president had the benefit of the petition and the Chief Justice wrote the request, the president, in honoring the request, sealed the petition before giving it to her, who informed the minority of the details. If her ladyship, the Chief Justice, in communication with the minority, because at this point, the petition is between the president and the Chief Justice. And in fact, for the president to guide the integrity of the process, he sealed, he marked the petition. I've heard one other journalist of Metro refer to what they claim to be the content of the petition. Who leaked to them?
That is, if it the details.
No, but this one he phrases that we are told.
Yes.
Who told
I listened to him carefully.
No, I just played that.
Who told him these contents? But you see, how come that he, John Darko, his own colleague, Afenyo Markin, Frank Anodompre, brought a petition for the removal of Loretta Lamptey. President Mahama didn't say it was an MPP MP against my appointee. He received the petition, actioned it, he found merit, and dismissed his own appointee. How come that today, Anodompre and his minority do not have confidence that President Mahama will do same thing he did to Loretta, affording her the opportunity to defend herself? Where is the fear? Where is the panic? You see, the stand of the minority relative to this broader national issue actually betrays a certain thing. It is extremely revealing. What is it? In all these constitutional arrangements, there's only one person under Article 146 to perform that role of receiving a petition. It is not Professor Ranford Jampo. It is not my learned friend here or this big man, not even me. Only president. The president. Who is the president of Ghana? Possibly the petitioner should have addressed it to the MPP minority before and given it to Afenyo Markin so that Afenyo Markin can consult the Council of State in this process. Malene Senior, you were called to the bar before me, and I've always been inspired by your legal work. What exactly is the complaint against John Mahama? My senior John Darko, what exactly is the complaint against President Mahama? Now, when you assume the position of now deciding that a petition is frivolous, are you not usurping the powers of President Mahama and the Council of State? Lawyer Darko, it is rather your conduct that is unconstitutional. It is rather your conduct that is unbecoming of a lawyer. President Mahama so far has only conducted himself within the confines of the law. Akufo-Addo did it. The three commissioners of the Electoral Commission were all removed through that process. President Mahama has not invented a new rule. He's just basically holding fidelity to the 1992 Constitution. I think at this point, the minority must stay away and allow President Mahama to perform his constitutional responsibility. If there's any merit, and I've always said, thankfully, the Council of State has a retired Chief Justice on that committee. Her guidance, and in fact, thankfully, she even is in a very interesting situation. You know why?
Relationship.
No. Charlotte Osei's prima facie determination was made by who? By her. By her. So if there's anybody that has that experience, she'll bring that experience to bear. What did she see? In fact, if she's somebody who could make... Yes, if she could make a prima facie determination for the removal of Charlotte Osei on her own, or even that one on her own, Because remember that the process is different. If it comes to the Chief Justice, it's a different rule.
Yeah.
But for other Superior Court judges, it's the Chief Justice that makes that determination. And she found it that in the case of Madame Charlotte Osei, the evidence of breaches of the Procurement Act was enough to warrant the establishment of the 5-member committee chaired by His Lordship Justice Benny. Has President Mahama done otherwise? No. So away from this, complete red herring. But it is actually an emotional conversation now. Because you see, CSOs, you must stand for the judiciary.
I'm here, I will speak.
Has President Mahama, as we speak, President Mahama, has he appointed any judge?
No.
Has he appointed any judge?
No.
So where from the interference? Has President Mahama asked that a particular judge should sit on a case involving him or his government? No. If there was any evidence of judicial interference, kindly look at the African peer review report in 2004. Yeah. No, 2005, yeah. Even though it reflected 2004. When the Chikata trial, the fast-track composition, where in the midst, President Kufuor appointed Justice Afre to the Supreme Court and got onto the panel that reversed the original fast-track decision. The African peer review mechanism report indicted the president as directly interfering in the judiciary. President John Dramani Mahama does not have that reckless record. So where is the conversation going?
Okay.
President Mahama, on the 7th day of January 2025, in taking his oath, said, I shall respect the 1992 Constitution. What Afenyo Makin and his micro minority are doing is to say President Mahama disobeyed the Constitution, which will now be a ground for his removal. Because remember that if the president disobeys the constitutional order, that's grounds for his removal. Indeed. At this point, with all the counsel available to President Mahama, he is fortified not to obey that recklessness, but to stick to what the Constitution says. Right. Let's see what the coming days will reflect.
Indeed.
Thank you for making time with us again. God bless you all for the good work you are doing as viewers, and to all our cherished new viewers. We urge you to subscribe for more videos. Stay glued to the channel by subscribing and turning the notification bell on so that you'll be notified duly of anything that will be posted here. Thank you once again. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for trusting us. God bless us all. Bye-bye.